Hi everyone. Good evening. Namaste. Hello. How are you? So today we are going to discuss about cybersecurity. What is the importance and why would you really need a cybersecurity information, or why would you need to understand what is cyber? So agenda for today's webinar is what is cybersecurity? Why is cybersecurity important? What is cybersecurity requirements? What is cyber assets? How to establish cybersecurity in your organization or wherever you are working with, and who writes cybersecurity policy? I mean, the various roles that are part of your organization. Now, today's learning objective is to be familiar with cybersecurity, information security, common threats in the cybersecurity space, how to secure cyber space. Now let's begin with what is cybersecurity. Now the first term in cybersecurity is information security. It's very simple: information and its security. So information security is the protection of information against unauthorized disclosure, transfer, modification, or destruction, whether accidental or intentional. Now, what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is the protection of any cyber asset, software program, or critical infrastructure to fight intentional interference, compromise, or breakdown by unauthorized means of the internet, public or private telecommunication system, or any other similar conduct that violates national or international laws, which damages interstate commerce of country or threaten public health or safety. So we'll understand it with this scenario, that is cybersecurity is equal to the security of the cyberspace. Now what is cyberspace? It is the information system and network, your whole internet, your system, your laptop, your desktop, your servers, your printers, your network devices, all of this comes into information system and networks. Now, to make sure that the security of these assets is in place is called cybersecurity. Now, with cybersecurity, we means availability, integrity, and confidentiality. Now, the very important thing in this whole scenario is the data. The data that resides on your system, on your server, on your laptop, on your desktop is the most important thing. This is what we are talking about securing here. The goal of cybersecurity is to protect operation and assets and its data. Now, there are basically three principles of information security. These are availability, integrity, and confidentiality. You can say that if you are going to evaluate information security or you are going to evaluate cyber security, for that you need to evaluate its availability, integrity, and confidentiality. Now we'll go through all these three things in a very brief form. What is availability? Availability is that your data, your information should be available whenever it is required. Okay. Now what is integrity? That the data or information should be available in its original correct form in which it is supposed to be available. Now what is confidentiality? It means that your data or information should be available only to the intended person, not to the unauthorized person. So if we evaluate all these three aspects of a data or information, we can say that we have evaluated our cybersecurity scenario or cybersecurity workspace. There is a very minute difference in what is cybersecurity and what is information security. So information security means we are only talking about securing the information that exists in the environment, and cybersecurity means a larger group or larger part where we are talking about internet data, intranet data, your data on your system, on your desktop, laptop, servers, on your network devices, router, firewall, and all those things. Okay, so this is the basic difference between cybersecurity and information security. Now let's see why are we talking about cybersecurity. So there are a number of threats that exist in the cyber environment, because of which our data can be compromised. So there are email account takeovers, malware attacks, phishing attacks, email spoofing, social engineering, denial of service, and all those things are there. So what are these attacks? So uh, to name a few, there might be many more. To name a few, these are the top nine social engineering attacks that we have. These are called phishing, spear phishing, whaling, wishing, spam, farming, tailgating, shoulder surfing, dumpster diving. Now, we'll go into detail of some of the important attacks later in the our presentation. Now, there are some network level vulnerabilities that exist as well. These are logjam vulnerabilities, breach attack, SSH weak algorithm supported. Now, denial of service using NTP and SMB etc. services. Microsoft Windows SMB shared unprivileged access. So most of these vulnerabilities do exist because of some old patches. I mean, because of the latest patches are not installed in the system. Most of them. Now, some of the famous vulnerabilities that are there, other than those that exist in the network, are SQL injection, buffer overflow, lack of authentication process, NTP DOS or denial of service amplification attack, Windows SMB remote code execution attack. Now, all these attacks, again, these exist in the application or in your Windows operating system or in your software. These are the most famous vulnerabilities. Most of these vulnerabilities do exist because of not unupdated patches which are not implemented and were supposed to be implemented. Now let's go through some of the important vulnerabilities or social media engineering attacks. So one of the very important attack is phishing. Now, what is phishing? Phishing, as the word it sounds, right? Or like when we go out and fish, catch a fish, fish fish. So let's see what is the definition of phishing. Phishing is a cybercrime where a target is communicated by email, telephone, or text message by someone pretending as a legitimate body. Pretending as a legitimate body. This is very important to attract individuals into providing sensitive data, such as but not limited to personal identifiable information or PII, banking and credit card details, which comes under PCI, payment card industry, and passwords and OTPs, etc. Okay. So what happens is, think of a scenario when you go out fishing, FIS fishing. You go out, put in some chara and put the rod in the river or pond wherever you are fishing, right? You don't know which fish you are going to catch, but you just open-ended do a broadcast, and then if you catch some fish, you catch some fish. So it is the similar kind of concept where you go out and put out some lucrative information outside, or threaten people to share their information, and if they do budge and do share their information, they do share their information, which is then used for various type of cyber crimes. Now there are different kinds of phishing: spear phishing, whaling, smishing, wishing, email phishing. We'll go, yeah, in a bit detail about all these points as well. Now, what is spear phishing? Spear phishing is a fraudulent act of targeting a specific group of individuals, such as the company's system or network administrator. Now, as you can see from the word spear phishing, spear is, you have a spear and you point your spear to a particular fish and then you throw your spear. So, in a similar way, spear phishing is conducted. So, if you are going to fish, you could pull out a old boot, a tuna or flounder, any kind of fish. If you're going to fish with a spear, you are picking a specific fish to go after, and hence the name of spearfish. Now, what is whaling? Whaling, it actually, yes, as it sounds, when you go out and catch whales, big fish. So, whaling is highly targeted type of fishing than just a spear fishing, and it goes after whales or the big fish. So, these attack targets the CEO, CFO, or C level people in the industry, or even a business, very very specific business people it do targets, but at a very higher level. A whaling email might say that their company is getting sued, and in order to get more information they are required to click on some links. The link then navigates them to a page where they enter all the crucial data about their company, such as tax ID, bank account, ITR information, and then that information is being used or gets compromised, obviously. Now let's see what is smishing. Smishing is an attack that uses text in messaging or SMS to get our attention. You know, you get text from banks, text from various organization that this is supposed to be happen, or this is going to happen, or all those stuff. So a similar kind of text message is prepared and sent to various phone numbers saying that something is happening, so that you have to take a specific type of action, and hence you get compromised. A message that comes in your mobile phone through SMS that encloses a link to click through a phone number to call would result in a smishing attack. Very simply, the SMS looks like it is coming from your bank, that tells you that your bank account has been compromised and you are required to respond immediately. Now attacker may ask you to verify your bank account, and then social security number or your Aadhaar number or your PAN number, and then attacker has control of your bank account. Simple as that. Now what is vishing? Again, as we added V, it obviously it goes to voice kind of phishing. Now phishing is another type of a phishing attack that is done through a voice call by an attacker to get the user's personal information or sensitive corporate information because of voice call. Okay. There was a movie in India that came, it's called Jamantara. So it really very clearly showed what is wishing. Small town kids used to call on the phone and tell them that your account detail is required because it is getting close and all those stuff. So Jamantara movie, it is based on wishing. Now what is email phishing? Email phishing is the most common type of phishing that has been seen since 90s, since the email was actually invented. So these are the emails that are sent to any email addresses that a hacker can obtain. An email usually tells the recipient that their account has been compromised and they need to respond immediately by clicking this link, and that link actually compromises their information. Let's see some cases where these kinds of attack have actually happened. A real life example where internet under siege was there. So first denial of service style attack happened in February 2000, where a 15-year-old Canadian hacker by the name of Mafia Boy written a series of denial of service attacks against several e-commerce sites, including Amazon and eBay. So that happened in February 2000, and that happened in US, obviously. Now, one of the most famous DDoS attack, DDoS is distributed denial of service attack, that happened in February 2018. In that attack, what happened was mem caching weaponizing strategy is used by an attacker in which a spoofed request is delivered to a vulnerable GitHub server, flooded a targeted victim with amplified traffic. Memcache databases are commonly used to help speed up websites and network, and which the hacker used to spoof and send in a malicious code instead of the real code. Now what it did was it increased actual traffic on the website and actually did a distributed denial of service attack. Now let's go to case two, where the malware attacks happened. Obviously, you would be knowing many malwares that are there in the internet. So one of the most early malware attack that happened was in January 2003. SQL Slammer was unleashed on the internet. SQL Slammer worm now infected 90% of the vulnerable computers within 10 minutes. and led to failure of 13,000 ATMs of Bank of America due to buffer overflow vulnerability in Microsoft's SQL Server. So this is very important. This is why all the important server, all the important OS, all the important your softwares have to be at the latest version, or the latest patches must be installed in all the time, so that these kind of attacks can be minimized. That was the earliest very elaborative worm attack that happened in January 2003. Now there was a recent very famous case of ransomware or malware attack that happened in February 2018. So its name was WannaCry ransomware. Now what a ransomware does is encrypts your whole hard disk, and until unless you pay some ransom to the hacker, it does not gives you a key to unencrypt it. Now, so this was one of the most famous case where it hit banks in India, including Andhra Pradesh Police, government of Gujarat during first wave of attack. And it is a crypto worm. It uses Eternal Blue exploit in SMB version 1, which has a kill switch domain that breaks the encryption process. Now, most of the payment that these hackers look out is mostly into Bitcoin, so that it's non-traceable payments for these ransomware. So again, a very important thing is that your system, your database, your OS, your important applications should be updated and upgraded to the latest version, and your antivirus should also be updated to the latest patch or signature that is available. Now here is the list of top 10 malware. These are Grand Crab, NJ Rat, Black Shades, Tinba, Evmart, RAT, etc. Now, cyber defense specialist at GData had identified more than 4.9 million malware samples in 2019 itself. You can understand that 4.9 individual malware samples were identified in just a year, and it's increasing exponentially. So even if you see in this table, the Gantt crab have 408182 variants of itself, right? So so you can imagine how big this actually is. So these are the list of top 10 malwares that are there in the recent years. Now, internet dependencies. Why? So we are progressively more depending on the internet going on. Everything is available on internet. Every communication is happening on the internet. Everyone is connected on the internet. If you see recently in 2020, especially because of the COVID situation, most of the work have now moved to internet. Whether your education, your industry, your government, everyone is moving on to internet. Communication through email, IM or VoIP, commerce, banking, business, e-commerce, everything is moving to internet. Information and entertainment, everything is on OTT and your Google and your Wikipedia and all those stuff. Sensitive data is stored. Again, sensitive information is again available on the internet. Private organization, educational organization, government have permanently replaced physical manual processes with internet based processes. Everyone is moving on to computers. So this is increasing our internet dependencies. Now let's see what are the cyber security requirements to make sure that our cyberspace is secure. What are the requirements for that? There are various industry level security requirements that are there. One of the important top 6 compliance regulatory are these: ISO 27001 compliance. This is ISMS standard. What is ISMS? Information Security Management System Compliance Standard. This gives you a very high level understanding. If you do comply your organization through this, you can say that you are at a international compliance standard of information security. PCI DSS. PCI DSS is basically for your payment card, the card swapping, wherever the card data is involved, PCI DSS compliance comes into play. RBI PSS is for the Government of India, RBI regulatory for Indian banking system. SOX compliance, this is basically for your financial organization. HIPAA compliance is for your health healthcare area regulatory compliance. Certain regulatory compliance requirement is basically there is a CERT is Computer Emergency Response Team of India. There's a regulatory body called CERT. They have their own requirement and compliance standard. People, organization do get compliant in certain, and then they get certified to get themselves further to scan and audit other organization to make sure that they are also at the same compliance standard. This is mainly for Indian business, e-commerce and other business, most specifically related to India. Now, what are the cyber security best practices that are there? Those are: protect your system and firewall. And your system always have a firewall. Should always have a firewall. Whether your laptop, desktop, even your laptop, desktop have internal Windows firewall, or in your Linux you have firewalls. So enable those firewalls, enable some rules, and make sure that the firewall do exist with your system. Configure your password and make sure that your password and other settings are not default. I mean, think of a password. If you say 12345, it gets hacked in a nanosecond. If you think that longer password and a complex password, that p at the rate dollar and 123 at the rate 56, now this whole password is a bit less crackable. So think of more innovative ways to configure your password. Protect stored card holder data. So whenever there is card holder data stored in your environment, make sure it is encrypted or protected. Encrypt transmission of card holder data while in transit. So make sure whenever there are sensitive information flowing in the environment, they should always be encrypted. Now use a regularly updated antivirus software. Make sure that your antivirus software is always updated. Regularly update and your patch system. Make sure your patches, your for Windows, for your Linux, for everything. Make sure your patches are always updated. Restrict access to card holder data on need to know basis. Make sure your important data or your sensitive information like card holder information is access restricted. Access yani means need to know basis. Whoever needs to have access should only have access, not to everybody else. Assign a unique ID to each person with system access. There should be no common account that are being used for more by more than one people. Restrict physical access to your workstation or workplace and implement logging and log management in your environment. Make sure that logging is there so that at least if there is a breach, you are able to identify the culprit. All the logs are maintained. Conduct vulnerability scans and penetration testing. This will make sure that your environment is safe, and if there are any vulnerabilities that are there, you get to know it and able to patch it in time. Always make sure that there is documentation and risk assessment is done in your environment so that there is a standard practices followed, and if there is any risk in your environment, that is always identified beforehand, not at the very 12th hour. Now, let's see what are cyber assets. Cyber assets can be your desktop, your control system, your server, virus scanners, hardware platform for VM. VM is your virtual machines, your network devices, your heating, ventilations, and air. You would think that why heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system are part of cyber assets. Think of an environment where your system, your server is placed and there is no heating or ventilation or air conditioning in that room. What will happen? Ultimately, your system, your computer, your desktop, your servers will overheat or will absorb moisture, and they will malfunction, right? Uninterrupted power supplies, UPS system. Your UPS, why UPS is important? That in case of power failure, there should be a backup. System should not shut down. If you remember, going back to our one of the first few slides, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So this is all part of availability scenario. Now, how to track a cyber asset? So there is a sample checklist which is there on this link, CIS checklist, which is there. You can go through that, or on a very high level, the if you see this picture, these should be your part of cyber asset inventory. So these should be your computer, your network components, programmable logic controllers, printers, instruments, analyzers, remote IOs, or HMIs. So all these should be part of your cyber asset inventory to make sure that you have a count of what are the things that you need to protect. That CIS checklist that we were talking about earlier, this looks like this. So it have asset name, type, description, model, manufacturer, internal IDs, etc. that you need to identify for each asset, and then you make a whole list of it so that you have all the information ready, and wherever you need to protect it, you can go ahead and identify and protect those cyber assets. Now, how to establish a cyber security? So first of all, we need to understand laws and regulations which regulates these cyberspace or cyber security. Information Technology Act 2000, IT Act 2000, or updated in 2008. That is one of the Indian regulations that is governing the cyber security space for India. Now, then there is a Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. In short, we call it HIPAA. That is there for mostly for the US environment, but in general, it is used throughout the world. Now, then there is a GLBA Act, Graham Leach Bailey Act. Another one is Federal Information Security Management, FISMA, FISMA. And then there is a latest one that came out in 2016. It's European Union General Data Protection and Regulation, GDPR. It is called GDPR. So that actually talks about your data privacy and how to protect your data. So you need to understand these laws and regulations first. More cyber crime related legislation across the world, those can be identified in this link, untag.org. So you go to that website and you get the list of cybercrime laws that are there in the world. Another very important point is, once you know the law of the land, you know your asset, then you go ahead and define your information security policy or cyber security policies in your environment. Uh, Documentation is very important so that everything is regulated and in a free flow form, right? There is no people based effort in that. Now, important cyber security policies are information security policy, access control policy, asset management policy, data protection policy, data retention and disposal policy, and system hardening policy. Information security policy should identify the policies or regulations in for information security based on your environment. Access control policy should define how the access is defined. Asset management policy should define how the assets are managed in your environment. Data protection should identify your data and how they are protected in various form or however they exist. Retention and disposal should identify that the data that is there in your environment, how it is supposed to be retained and how it will be disposed of. This is also very important policy. System hardening policy should identify that these kind of systems are there in your environment and how you are going to harden those systems so that unwanted access or unwanted configuration is not available in your environment. Few other policies are patch management policy, technology usage policy, incident management policy, change management policy, email security policy, audit logs and monitoring policy. Patch management policy should define how the patches are supposed to be implemented. Technology usage should define what technology is being used in your environment and what not. Incident management policy should define that in case there is an incident in your environment, how you are going to handle that incident. Change management policy should discuss how any changes in your environment is supposed to happen. Email security policy should define how the email would be secured in your environment. Audit logs and monitoring policy would identify what kinds of logs are generated and how they are monitored in your environment. Now, information security policy is one of the cyber security policy, and these should be the part of information security policy. So you can make one document out for all these things, or you can make individual policies out of these. So with information security should constitute of physical security policy, password policy, acceptable usage policy, BYOD policy. So BYOD is bring your own device policy, antivirus policy, clear desk and clear screen policy. Now we discuss that who should write the cyber security policies in your organization. It should be your IT department, and with the help of various key holders that are there. So how it should be governed is very important. So first part is that C-level business executive, your CEO, CXO, CFO, CIO, CISO should define the business need for security or information security. Then the legal department should ensure that the policies meet all the legal requirements and complies with the government regulations. Procurement department are responsible to verify that a service provider's security meets the organization's information security policy. And the HR department, your human resource department, is responsible for explaining and enforcing employee policies. So together, all these three, four departments together, they would make a successful information security policy. Now, how to implement the security policy? Once you have defined your information or cyber security policy, just go ahead and implement what is written, right? So that's the best way of defining your cyber security policy.